Hi, welcome to the latest edition of Ragic Office Hour. And let's get started by doing a quick recap on our latest feature. And today I would like to introduce one of our pretty cool latest feature is that you can remind your teammates on that they need to submit a record on Ragic, like submit a status report, like maybe you want to remind them that they need to submit a quarterly objective. So, and a reminder like that is really useful when you have like quite a few team members that you need to remind them that they need to submit a report for a sheet. So this is the form submission reminder. It's under Tools, Form Submission Reminder. And first of all, you can decide on the recurrence rules. So how does it repeat? And you can say that does not repeat if it's a one-off, or it's like if your team does a status update every Wednesday, or it's at a certain day of every month. So you could just choose a date like this. It's gonna show you the next few due dates so that you can kind of cancel them, do some adjustment if you need, and you can adjust the start date of this recurrence. And then you need to decide that for which user group that you would like this reminder to be, which user group needs to do this form submission under this recurrence rule. So you can choose a user group. Usually you would just choose user group, and sometimes you might want to choose a certain set of users under the assignees. So all of these users will need to submit a record here on this sheet every Wednesday, and these are the next days that they need to send a reminder. So, and you can also have the system send out automatic reminders like submission start reminders that you can remind them 7 days before the start day to remind them they can start preparing, and you can remind them on the due dates. So yeah, and you will be able to monitor who has submitted and who hasn't on that sheet when this is actually configured. So if you have configured your team members to submit this every Wednesday, you will be able to see a little chart there telling you which team members has submitted the records on that period and which team members has not. So if you have lots of people who are generally needs to submit records on a recurring basis, you should be able to use this to help track if they have done the submission. It would be very helpful if you have like quite a few team members and if they are doing submissions on a regular basis. So yeah, try this out and let us know what you think of this feature. Okay, and now getting back to the office hour questions. First question. Auto number of company and contact. How would the individual company contact be addressed? Auto number of company and contacts. I don't have a lot of context for this question. This is but I don't recall any questions related to this. Company. Maybe it's related to the next one. Okay, I'll just answer this. Oops. I guess you can follow the structure that we have on our templates, so that you can have one company as a record and a subtable showing multiple contacts for the company. and you can create a new sheet from that subtable, that context table, so that you can have a contact sheet. So if you have 2 contacts from the company A, 3 contacts from company B, and that new sheet from subtable will have 5 contacts from each of those companies. So that will be the basic structure when you're dealing with companies and contacts. Basic structure for company and contacts is 1 record per company and a subtable for multiple contacts. Generate a new sheet from subtable to create a contact sheet across all companies. Yeah, that's the basic structure that we usually use. Let's see if you have any follow-ups on this. Activity record. Need to keep the activity in order date with company contact and activity and next action date and action to be done with some way to complete the schedule part of it. Okay, that's a nice follow-up. So the first question would be, for each of those activities, are they for the company or for a certain contact? Because if the activity is for a company, then you could just put the activities under the company as a subtable. If the activity is to record activity with a certain contact, then you can put the subtable at the contact sheet that we generated from the contact subtable. Or you could do both, so that you could have 2 types of activity, one with the company and the other with the company contacts. And the next action date. Generally, in my experience, the next action date and the activities are per company. So I'm gonna say we can put this under the company. The activities and the contacts are both subtables under the company, and the next action date is also under the company according to the latest activities. Okay, so I'm gonna do a short demo on how to create a simple company and contact tracking and activity tracking. So to give you a better idea. So I'm gonna create one here. So simple CRM. Okay, so a customer like this. Okay, let's say this is a company. But this is not. This is more like a person. Quick templates. How about a company? About a vendor. Okay, let's say vendor. I'll just use vendor as the company, as an example. Okay, vendor. Then let's say vendor and vendor activities. Okay, so after this, we can have the multiple contacts per vendor. So we could have a contact name, title, email, phone and next action date. Okay, so this is the contact doesn't have the next action, the activities does. So this is the contact subtable where you could keep like multiple contacts for vendor or the companies that you're dealing with. And another one would be the activities. So it would be the activity here and activity, that's the activity date at the front. Makes more sense. Activity day, activity, and next action date. Okay. We could add more fields according to your demand, but let's make it simple and make it like this now, for now. So like I said before, if you want to generate a cross-company contact sheet, you could just generate a new sheet from subtable. So it's vendor contacts. This will be across different vendors. Oh, it's here. And if you go into activities, you can also generate the activity sheet for the vendor, for all your vendors. So vendor activity. This will also be across all vendors. And the next action date for each activity, I just assume that if you have, so let's say the vendor name is Ragic, contact name, they'll just fill up Jeff, and activity day is today, and activity is just a meeting, and the next action. So if you want to have a next, so you could just look at the next action dates here, and you could also just write a formula here, like you could say the next action date here, and specify that this should be the last of the action dates. So you could say that, oh, this you want to know the last activity's next action date. So usually the next action day of like if you have a lot of activities, the next actual action day will be the next action day for the last activity. So that would kind of make sense. So yeah, this is basically how I would design this, and we can expand if you have other requirements that you might want to track, like outside of contacts and activities, or you have other fields that you would like to track. All right. Please see webinar video demo for creating a prototype like this. All right. Next question. I think Ragic should have full stack web application SaaS option along with hosting free plan and paid plan, with option to build the app within Ragic site. I tried this with Base 44 app and looks nice. Well, yeah, this is kind of the popular way to vibe coding now, from Base 44 to Lovable to even Monday.com. They have things like that to help you vibe code. And actually for Ragic, it's kind of vibe coding is something we try to avoid for our customers, because we do think harnessing the power of AI to build your application is it's the future, it's the right thing to do. But for non-developers who vibe code and create a lot of applications, it's magical at first, of course. Every time it's magical at first, but you have to think about how you're going to maintain this and what you're going to do in the long run when the application grows bigger and bigger, and you want to make some changes, or you have some compliance issues or security issues. So vibe coding is always very magical and pleasant at the beginning, but at Ragic, we want to make the application that you built really maintainable and in your control in the long run. So all the AI enabled features on Ragic, they don't actually write code. They build Ragic applications just like you do. And everything they build is not in code. So you could just go in the design mode and just check out what they did, and check out what they wrote, and you have full control over what the AI has built. So, and Ragic tries to be the guardrails for AI when they're building applications, and that it's our belief that this would be the more responsible, long-term, maintainable approach compared with vibe coding and really quickly generating anything you need magically. But while in the long run, it may be a pretty nice thing to do for Ragic. So if we were going to do this kind of AI-generated coding for Ragic, I think we will likely be moving toward this direction, like the server-side JavaScript workflow script that we already have. We try to make it a small-scale application so that the AI-generated code doesn't go out of hand. We have plenty of experience with AI coding, and the code base just grew exponentially, and it will get out of hand pretty quickly, and maintenance will become a headache after a while, especially if you're not a professional developer. So yeah, thanks for the suggestion. I think we will have some type of small-scale application building, code in the future, but we will try to be the guardrail for this kind of AI application and make sure that it's maintainable and it's robust and like any responsible and enterprise applications should do. Thanks for your feedback. Believe being the main platform that AI create business applications on for business users to avoid the maintenance problem of AI generated code. However, it does make sense to write a small scale support to write simple applications hosted on Ragic that can be a shell, customizable shell that runs on your Ragic data sheets. Yeah, that's pretty much the summary that we have on our mind, and we are very actively adding more and more features to Ragic so that AI assisted Ragic sheet building will be a lot more powerful in the near future. So stay tuned for that. And after that, maybe we'll create kind of a small vibe coding feature for you to build a shell on top of your Ragic sheets. That's also a pretty good idea, but that has to be very much limited and make sure it doesn't go out of control. And mostly, I would think it should be based on Ragic sheets, does not have its own data storage, and it should be mostly front-end UI-based application. All right, and that's it for the questions for today. Thank you for joining in to the latest Ragic Office Hour. If you have any other questions or suggestions, please feel free to use the Office Hour question sheet here, and I will be talking to you to answer your questions in 2 weeks. Thank you and goodbye.